Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 189th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm Steve Wellings. I'm joined by Andy P. We have Donny on as well, Adam Smido-Smith, and Ryan. We're hoping to get a special guest on, a guy whose voice you might be familiar with, could be joining us, jumping on the call in about 10 minutes' time. So keep an ear out for that, guys. Before we get stuck into the lack of boxing at the moment, I'm just going to give a little plug for our new podcast spin-off series, Punches from the Past. It's well underway at the moment, guys. Episode 2 is dropping in the middle of the week. So keep an eye on Twitter and the Facebook page as well to find out which fight we'll be covering this week. And you can catch that through iTunes, Tumblr, or the Facebook page itself. It's not actually available on YouTube, unlike this podcast, but subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating and review on iTunes if you can, if you haven't done already. Right, guys, it might be a relatively short show tonight as there's a serious lack of professional action anyway, but there's plenty of Olympic stuff going on at the moment. I had a big spiel all written out and all these different fighters' names. I'm trying to keep up with who's still in, who's getting knocked out. I'm going to defer all that. I'm going to leave it to one side. We have Ryan on the call. He's our Olympic boxing guru at the moment. So I'm just going to go over to him to mention what he wants to, who he's been impressed with, who's still left in at the moment, who he expects to win gold, etc. Ryan, I'm going to open up the floor. It's all yours, sir.
All right, well, I'm going to start off by saying that the judging today was absolute shit.
Shocking.
Yeah, I mean, the Nikitin versus Bluti from Thailand, that was just awful. Like, the Thai won every single round, and he just got fucked on cards. And I thought there was another one. Oh, yeah, Nistor against that super heavyweight from Jordan. Just beat the shit out of him in rounds 2 and 3, and yet they gave the Jordan guy, like, 2 judges gave the Jordan guy the round that he got the absolute shit beat out of him, and Nistor ended up losing. And so now in the quarterfinal, it's Tony Yoka versus that Jordan guy, which is shit because it's not even going to be competitive. Yoka is way better, so Yoka basically breezes to the super heavyweight semifinal, hopefully against Hrgovic, who, by the way, looked outstanding in his first fight. Hrgovic from Croatia, that's who cut David Haye before one of the Fury fights and canceled it. But yeah, Arlen Lopez from Cuba, middleweight, he's the gold medal favorite in that division. He's had 1 fight so far and knocked the guy out in the first round, looked outstanding. And opposite him in the final is probably going to be Bektemir Melikuziev from Uzbekistan, who's just going to breeze through to the final, most likely. And speaking of Uzbekistan, Hasanboy Dusmatov won the gold medal at light flyweight today and just put on boxing clinic,
Yeah, it was.
early candidate for the Val Barker Trophy, and the Uzbeks are just killing it. They're winning everything. Obviously they get favored by the judges a lot of the time too, because they pay money to AIBA to host tournaments and all this shit. Par for the course. But yeah, I mean, some of the Cuban favorites have been dropping in semifinals, like Arguilagos Alvarez today against Conceição, who you got to think is going to win the gold medal at home. I mean, really, there's no way that the judges aren't going to give him the gold medal at home. So I think Conceição from Brazil at lightweight is going to win gold. He's going pro after too, so that should be pretty interesting. He's 27, so he's still got a bit of time. Yeah, Michael Conlan. Michael Conlan was pretty good today. Just was just a level above his opponent. Shakur Stevenson, same thing, even though the judges almost fucked him. I mean, it was easily winning, and the judges were finding ways to give the Brazilian a round or two there, and setting up for a Stevenson versus Conlan semifinal.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say, Ryan, if you don't mind just for a second, I think Donny has something to say about this, don't you, Donny? You've unmuted yourself already. You've pulled the gun out the holster.
Well, no. I mean, I just think that that's going to be the fight of the tournament because, like Ryan was saying last week, Shakur Stevenson hasn't been fighting in the senior division yet. He hasn't fought the men but he just looks to have great skills. Another thing that was confirmed today, I was so, like like he said, I was also afraid that they were going to fuck him for a hometown, Brazilian guy, but they didn't. And I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions there, but it looks like we're going to have them answered. And then there's also the intrigue factor because Billy Walsh, of course, used to be Colin's coach, and now he's going to be in the corner of Stevenson, coaching him, from American perspective, hopefully to victory over Conlon, his former fighter, a guy that he used to coach himself and that he coached in the 2012 games. So, and already, Conlon's already sort of fired some shots. Today I saw on a site called News Talk. I don't know how good their boxing coverage is, but apparently they do have a presence down at the Olympics, and I guess Conlon told them that really the only reason that America seems to have exceeded expectations in these games is because the new pro-style scoring and the no headgear, benefits the American fighters who oftentimes work with, their trainers at their home gyms, which are, predominantly train them in the pro style. And he said that the American team's success has nothing to do with Walsh, and that who's the current Irish coach, that he's always been the main guy. Yeah, he's from where's he from?
Georgia.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with him always being the main guy. By the way, News Talk 106 is an Irish radio station. Sorry, carry on, Donna.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, that explains why I didn't know. But anyways, yeah, I guess he told them that he didn't think that Walsh is really responsible for the American success. So that's good. That's going to be a good. If that happens, I think that there'll be a lot of attention on that fight. And like I said, with Stevenson not having fought, the guys like him or Ramirez before simply because of his age, that I think that's going to be there's that entire division is so stacked with talent. It's just going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the theory that they're doing better because of the more pro style rules and stuff is I mean, last year our World Championships, they were garbage, and at the Pan Am Games and the Pan Am Championships, they were still pretty bad. Like, they didn't win that many medals there, so it's interesting, all of a sudden they're doing pretty well for having such a small team. And I mean, it's probably because in non-Olympic years, the whole national team is way less centralized, way less cohesive, and they've basically been in camp since the start of the year, pretty much all the national team together, whereas in non-Olympic years that probably wouldn't be the case. And plus, the team gets decided by the Olympic trials, so really it's the best guys that they can get from the Olympic trials tournament. So it's a bit different than the previous years, where they still were even doing bad at the World Championships and Pan Am Games and stuff, but now they're a lot better. Obviously, they've exceeded big expectations. I mean, Nico Hernandez got a bronze. Gary Russell is one fight away from a medal, even though he's got to go through an Uzbek, which really hard to get decisions over them. Balderas made it to the quarterfinal, and Shakur's probably going to get at least a bronze. And I don't think Antonio Vargas, he has a really hard draw, so I don't think he's going to get there. But
he's got to face the number one guy, right?
Oh, yeah, he's got to fight in Uzbek in his next fight, and then after that, he's got to face the reigning world champion from Azerbaijan. So he's up against it.
Yeah, Ryan, did you catch Buatsi during the week, mate?
Oh yeah, really impressed. I mean, he's come along so far. It's pretty crazy how good he's doing. He's gonna medal. He's got to fight this Algerian guy, and Buatsi should really kick his ass. I mean, he's gonna get bronze, and then he's got a pretty good chance to go to the final, I think, because if he fights Mamadov from Azerbaijan, the really tall guy, I mean, I think he's just got too much power for him. Mamadov is really thin at the weight. He came down from heavyweight to light heavyweight, and he doesn't seem to take shots very well at light heavyweight. So I think Buatsi can overpower him probably. And then if it's the Kazakh in the semifinal, he's basically the exact same type of fighter that Uzbek KO'd was. So he's got a decent chance there too.
Ryan, just talking about the Buatsi, and obviously you were saying about the American team exceeding expectations. Who do you think, in your opinion, has exceeded expectations and surprised you with how well they've fought? And then on the flip side, who has disappointed you by not maybe fighting to a standard you expected coming into the tournament?
Well, the disappointments are the Russians. Some of them have been shit. And they had big pedigrees on paper coming in and, big resumes. But I think part of the problem for the Russians is a lot of them haven't been doing many 3-round fights. They've been doing WSB and APB without fighting much in the 3-round fights. So their styles are all wrong for the 3-round format, and some of them getting beat. And yeah, they're the biggest disappointments for sure. I think Salimov too. I mean, he was like supposed to be a shoo-in for a medal. He's out, and I guess I got to say the Irish too, because they've underperformed. I mean, I know Paddy Barnes was dead at the weight basically, and I really overlooked the weight factor coming in because I didn't realize he hadn't fought at 49 kilos with same-day weigh-ins since 2014. So
Yeah,
I really overlooked that about Barnes. And then Joe Ward
yeah.
gave it away basically. I mean, at some point you have to stand and fight and not keep tying up, because if the ref isn't going to give you the benefit of the doubt, like you got to fight eventually.
What do you think it is with Joe Ward at major tournaments? I mean, that
Hmm.
can't step to the next sort of phase consistently.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard things about him that supposedly he doesn't really like to work that hard. That's just things I've, heard from, Irish people and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Gets complacent or something. I don't know if it's actually true. It's just what I've heard from people, but I don't know. He just seemed to switch off. Like he kept tying the guy up when the ref was calling it holding. So eventually, you got to stop doing that, or else the ref is gonna take points from you. And he didn't stop doing it, and he lost the fight because of it. Even though, like, when they were at range, he was tagging the guy with the left hand, and take away all that clinching and stuff, he probably would have won, because he had the way better skills. And if they would have stood and fight, he still could have got the better of it. So I don't know. He just seems to switch off, which is weird because at World Championships last year he was really, really good and got a silver, but he just switched off for this one.
Yeah, he's definitely got the talent. I remember seeing him as a 17-year-old breaking through and upsetting Kenny Egan, and then he obviously beat Egan again after that. And he is a real talent. The skills are definitely there. I think there is stuff going on outside the ring. What you're alluding to, that is true as far as I'm aware. So it's just the way it's going. I mean, Dave Loback's on the call now. Thanks for jumping on, Dave. Any opinions and anything on the US team or anything in general on the Olympics?
All right. Well, one of you, I think it was one of you here, put money on us not meddling at all. So, ha ha ha.
I never put money on it.
Somebody here, I think it was Dave Lee. Maybe he's not on the call today, but I believe Dave Lee put money on no Yanks meddling. Anyway, we have a medal. That's a good start. Shakur looks good. I saw him fight today. Gary Russell, Antoine Russell, looks decent. I think he looked better today than he did in his first fight. So we have some hope there. The other guy, what's his name? The other guy who's not eliminated yet.
Vargas?
Yes, Antonio Vargas. He looks okay as well. And then there's, of course, Clarissa Shields. And actually, Michaela Mayer dominated in her first fight. I wasn't expecting much from her. So we're not doing as bad as I thought for having so few names there. But America aside, I was shocked to see this French guy come along so far. What's his name? Yes, Sofiane Omia.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I thought he should have lost his first fight to Teofimo Andres Lopez Rivera from Honduras. I thought he lost that fight. But then he goes on from there to stop I'm Not Rin Wrong. Goes on from there to beat Selimov. So I don't know. This guy just comes all of a sudden just turned it on, because I thought he looked terrible in his out of 32 bout, his first eliminator. But anyway,
It's the same with that Colombian guy, Martinez, who lost the final today. He was, well, as McIntosh was saying, actually, he just beat seeded fighter after seeded fighter all the way to the final.
Well, this guy's obviously decided to show up after his first fight. I still think that the Honduran should be in there, but if this guy's going to stop, I'm not. I'm happy with that. It's always a pleasure to see a guy like that get stopped, at least for me. And I think Shakur Stevenson and Claressa Shields are locks for gold.
See, I actually.
Shakur Stevenson's. Did you say Stevenson's lock on for gold?
Yes.
Oh dear.
There's Conlon and.
They tried to rob him, but he dominated that fight.
He still has to go through Conlon and Rabisa Ramirez. Those are good fighters. I mean, he's a lock for bronze, and I think he has potential to rise to silver or gold, but I'm not prepared to say he's a lock for gold. That's a strong statement.
Conlon's a bum.
He's trolling.
Ryan, I had a casual moment earlier. I was thinking to myself, which Canadian amateurs are in this tournament? And I thought, what about Adam Troupish? What's happened to him? Why is he not boxing? And I realised, not only has he turned pro, but I've missed it out on his entire pro career. He turned pro in 2009 and retired in 2014 on the back of 2 knockout losses. So no Mr. Troupish in this tournament.
No, we have our only male boxer is Artur Byarslanov, who won the Pan Am Games last year, where he beat Yasniel Toledo in the final. Even though I thought Toledo won, but hometown decision. But anyway, he's our only male boxer. I mean, we've fallen so far since like the days of Lennox Lewis and that. Yeah, he's a southpaw, pretty decent fighter. He didn't have the best showing in his first fight, but he did enough to win, and he's got one of the more doable draws in the whole tournament. So it's possible that he can get to the semis. I think he'll win today, and then he's either going to be against Brazil or the Turkish guy Batuhan Gozgak, who's just a beast, just a beastly pressure fighter in the quarterfinals. So I think there's a possibility that he might even be our only male boxer, might even be able to get a bronze here.
We've had a look at most of the nations. Obviously, Andy mentioned Buatsi. We have a special guest on the line here. Press Pass Paul Webb is dead, and Paul David Webb has replaced him.
Void pass.
He jumped
Paul
on the call tonight. So I hope, Paul, you've been keeping up to date with the Team GB stuff. I know Joe Cordina is out and a few others are out, but please enlighten us, Paul David. Thanks for jumping on. It's great to hear from you again.
Oh, it's good to be back, everybody. It's been a very, very frustrating tournament, I think, for Team GB. I think a lot of people were quite excited going into the tournament because of the physical numbers of guys that we had qualified. And I had said that before that as much as we had a lot of guys through, the quality over the quantity really was lacking. I think obviously I had higher hopes for the guys in lower weights, and seeing the likes of Galal Yafai and Kaz Ashfaq go out so early, and not necessarily to the best guys in the division by any stretch, was very, very frustrating. And I think we've now gone from having a guy in pretty much every weight class represented to turning around and hoping that Joe Joyce, who had a gimme, if you can get a gimme at the Olympics, against that guy from the Cape Verde Islands. I'm not quite sure I don't know his process of qualifying, but I'm not quite sure how he was deemed elite enough to be at this kind of level. And obviously Buatsi has been talked about a lot. He's had a strong tournament so far, but as it stands, how many medals are we going to pick up? I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, any gold. Joyce is probably our strongest. I don't think Buatsi is going to get gold. I think Joyce is our strongest hope for it. I've not seen if Nicola Adams has fought yet. I don't know if she was scheduled to fight today or if she's fighting later on. But there's not a lot of big names, but a lot of names people thought. I said Cordina was one. Obviously Anthony Fowler, who, for all the ridicule of Anthony Fowler, and he doesn't have a good he doesn't have a good time on social media. And like I said before the tournament, he'd been talking himself up something chronic, and a lot of people were saying, being British, you get to compete in events like the Commonwealth Games. Now, in the Commonwealth Games, you can win medals and look like you're a very good amateur, when in reality, you've beaten an Indian and maybe an Australian. Not exactly two nations known for their high-quality boxing, either professional or amateur. And I think Fowler went in on such a wave of him saying he was going to do well. Lo and behold, he gets drawn against not the best guy in the division again, a guy who I think the bookies had 5th or 6th favourite for the gold, and he got absolutely annihilated. Like, he didn't lose a valiant 3-round decision. He got bludgeoned and battered. And, yeah, it was. I mean, the thing is that he's in a. I think Fowler's in a position where he knows that the money for him to turn pro will be there regardless, because he's from Liverpool and he's been certainly a high-profile fighter. But out of all of Team GB, if you had to say who put up the weakest performance, he is by far and away. I don't want to use the word embarrassing because it's not really fair, but it wasn't the fact that he got beaten, it was how he got beaten. The manner in which he then started hitting behind the back of the head, really being quite dirty, as if it was going to make any difference. I'd say, yeah, I mean, from a personal note, from a local level, obviously, it was a shame to see Galal go out so early. But we've got a lot of guys at this tournament, who are young. And we used to, obviously, when Amir Khan won it when he was 17, and we're used to having good, strong, young British amateurs, whereas most countries who do well, Kazakhstan, Cuba, etc., a lot of their guys are older because they're not, rushing to turn over professional. I think our guys this time around were too young, too inexperienced at this level, and the ones remaining, so Joyce in particular, he's someone who's been there and done it, whereas the others, Fowler aside, didn't really have a huge lot of credentials going into the tournament.
Do you think
that was the only time I actually heard Fowler actually accept a loss. Seriously?
I don't know too much about Phil. I was going to say to Paul, actually, Andy, I don't know if you have a comment on this. Will this affect the funding for the team? Does this have any bearing on how much money they're going to get?
It will. The Olympic, because obviously it goes back to the discussion I missed at the very start. I know you were talking about the American team. Obviously, and the American team have struggled because of A, funding, and B, certain promoters taking away amateurs' desire to go to the Olympics to turn pro instead. England boxing budget has gone up every single Olympic Games since 2000, and as much as he just get derided, Sir Audley Harrison was a huge. He's the only reason why the Olympic program is what it is. His gold medal secured funding, minimal funding. I think it was less than £1 million for the 2004 games, if I've got it in the right order. Or was it 2004 for 2008? Either way, he secured funding, 7-figure funding, and it's only gone up and up. I think the funding for this year was over £10 million, and the facilities the guys have got in Sheffield is. I don't know if there's a better facility in the world for amateur boxers. The money for them able to train, the hospitality they get in terms of being looked after, in terms of hotel rooms and food and nutrition and everything else, it's much, much better now than it was 10 years ago. And it's 100 times better than what it was 20 years ago. And that's why we've had the success with so many guys qualifying, simply because we've got the budget to send people off to these tournaments around the world, whereas before we'd been much more selective. Will this have an effect? Absolutely. If you take any Olympic sport, it's not just boxing. Any sport where we fail, it's almost like the wrong way around. Like if a school's failing, you put loads of money into it to try and improve it. With Olympic sport, if your sport fails, you get less money. So it won't be £10 million when they review it. It will be far less. It doesn't necessarily mean we can't have success in the future, but I think it will make life for lower quality amateurs who aren't quite at that elite level. I think it will make it far more difficult, and it's a shame, but we've seen it with other sports. They ploughed millions or hundreds of thousands into basketball heading up to 2012. Obviously England is not known, or Great Britain isn't a basketball nation. We struggled massively, and then after spending all that money in infrastructure, in the coaching and the team, they then turn around and their budget for this Olympics, or the 4 years, was £0. That's how cutthroat the British Olympic people can be. It will drop next time, but hopefully we need a gold. The key thing is to get one of those gold medals. The points that it gives in terms of budget is massive, and even I'd take Joe Joyce winning a gold over 3 silvers right now. That's how important I think it is to get that win.
Were you any
How
good at
much? How
basketball?
much does
You're a
the
big guy.
budget even do for you, though? I mean, look at they had a huge budget for London 2012. It was like 5 times the size of ours or more, and I mean, they still didn't look good. The team. I mean, you had Luke Campbell, you had Anthony Joshua. Joshua didn't deserve the gold. Campbell, yes, he did. But would he have not won that gold without that massive budget? I don't think. I think he still would have won it.
And maybe you're right, but I think obviously we got out of that 2012 Olympics, we got 3 gold medals, which there are very, very few sports apart from, sports like cycling and rowing that we just forever own at the Olympics because it's sports that we just do. You don't see many British guys winning shot put gold medals, but we do win rowing and cycling. Obviously a lot of people don't agree that Joshua should have won the gold medal, and certainly 2 of the fights he was involved in out of 4 fights were very, very, very questionable. But it's like I said, it's the facility. It's something that America, which is a joke because in the 80s, obviously the options at the Americans and the late 70s was incredible, and now it's just not there. All of the English guys, and this is where the budget makes a difference. All of the English amateurs go to one place. They shut themselves off. They can afford to live and to train. They're not training thinking, how am I going to pay my rent? Where am I going to eat? Which amateurs from around the rest of the world, a lot of them have that dilemma going through their minds. Our guys don't have that, and they've not had that for a number of years now. And obviously the budget, does the budget make better fighters? No, but I think it makes good fighters' lives easier and makes them more able to do better in tournaments because of that. We're not going to unearth some amazing talent because of this money. The talent will get through in the same way it always does, through youth clubs, but it just helps, I think.
Perhaps it makes them get fat and lazy. It encourages complacency because there's not that edge of desperation that they need to succeed here.
That's a good point. It's a very interesting point because you create because you're creating bigger stars and bigger names because of where they are and who they're training with. You also get bigger egos. You get difficult guys. Like I said, Anthony Fowler, and do you know what? It's a funny one with Fowler because I can't stand the guy. That's why I used him as an example to get off Twitter, was because I don't like Fowler. I think the way he carried himself was very poor, and he's systematic of maybe a kind of a comfy system that the GB boys have got. But like I said, there'll be a lot of question marks after the Olympics as to why it went wrong in so many ways. But I just think it was the wrong Olympics at the wrong time for the wrong age group of fighters, and also where other countries guys will happily stay on for 2 or 3 tournaments. And the Irish guys have done that, Paddy Barnes, 3 Olympics. If Paddy Barnes was English, he'd have turned over. He'd have turned over after 1 Olympics. It's the fact that the money for professionals is here. So, Galal Yafai is 21 years old. He's just got knocked out of around a 16 or 32. He'll turn pro. He should stay on to the next Olympics and fight till he's 25, 26. I mean, a lot of great British fighters did that, but now, since Amir Khan turning over so early, that's not the done thing. It's right, win my medal or get myself on the telly and then get signed as quickly as I can. And it doesn't give much longevity to the Olympic programme like you get from other countries.
Paul, sorry, before you run off, your mate Roonwong, final comment on him?
Yeah, disaster, really. The obvious problem was he was fighting 6 weight divisions above his comfortable weight to fight at. He had to do that because professional boxers, it's a lie. Their weight classes aren't their real weight classes, and the Olympics has shown that in a way. Amnat would have been physically unable to have maintained weight for 2 fights, let alone 4 or 5. So he had to put himself in with guys who were naturally much bigger and stronger. He said he's not going to go back to professional boxing now. He's content with either carrying on with the Olympic program or never fighting again, certainly as a pro, which a lot of people won't really give 2 tosses about. But I think the professionals in the Olympics argument, it will rage on. Obviously, it was all very last minute, and that's why we got some very average fighters entering themselves into this tournament. Will we get better fighters next time round? Maybe, but they might look at what happened to Amnat and what happened to Hassan and the Italian guy, whose name escapes me, who all struggled massively. I think 2 of them got stopped. It doesn't bode well. I think pros should stick to what they do, and that's boiling themselves down to a weight and fighting that way rather than trying to fight multiple times in the space of 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Andy P, before we go to Ryan to close out the Olympic discussion, Michael Gearty asked you a question on Twitter earlier. How long before we see Joe Joyce headlining a Matchroom pay-per-view? You weren't too keen on this idea?
Yeah, I don't think he'll turn pro, mate. I mean, what is he, 30?
Oh, he's turning pro.
Is
He
he?
said he is. He said he is, yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. Headlining pay-per-views, I don't know. I think he's got that charisma, Ryan. They kind of...
Well,
I
I
I
mean,
wouldn't say AJ's charismatic, but he's got some pull about him, I suppose. But I suppose anything's possible with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom.
if you're good enough, if he's good enough to get a world title fight, I suppose.
Yeah, Eddie can do anything, can't he? I mean, he could turn Tommy Coyle into Brian Blessed, man. He's flipping, he doesn't mess about, I suppose, and in that respect, he could. What do you think, Paul?
If he wins a gold medal, you know, he's a lock to turn over as a pro. The money will be insane. Bear in mind that as much as Joshua's become obviously this massive personality in terms of what they've created around him, you know, it's not. Well, we all know it's not really him. He didn't have any of that when he was an amateur. You know, winning a gold medal at heavyweight is basically the ability to walk into Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn's office and go, right, what's the biggest number you want to write down on this check? I think if Frank Warren's got anything about him, he should be going all out to try and get Joe Joyce. I don't know. I actually look at Joe Joyce, and people think, you know, obviously because of his long amateur background, but I think he's got a real sort of professional style. I think he might not be the quickest hands, but I think in that division you don't necessarily need to be. I think he would do well as a pro. Would he, you know, get to world title level? You know, he's turning over very late, and he'd need to progress very quickly. But if he wins a gold, then he's a lock to turn over. I don't think it'll even be a discussion because the money he could get from, you know, a 4 or 5 fight deal just to get him started would set him for an awful long time. I mean, Joshua was already one of the highest paid fighters in the UK in his first 8 or 9 fights when he was fighting bums, and he's now one of the highest paid fighters in the world, and he's still fighting bums.
Here, Ryan, has he ever been stopped, Joe Joyce?
Yeah, but he hasn't been stopped since 2013, and ever since then he's improved, you know, vastly. You know, I was actually surprised. People are really negative about Joe Joyce, you know, just because he's a bit stiff and slow sometimes. But I mean, he completely battered that guy like he was supposed to do, and then I see people slagging him off because he was sloppy or something. I mean, he just completely battered a guy that he was supposed to beat, and people are going to slag him off like that. I, I just don't agree with it. You can't make conclusions off a fighter based on 3 minutes of him beating someone up. I mean, you gotta take a look at his background and see what he's done in WSB and done in tournaments prior to this, and you'll see that, you know, he's a pretty good fighter. You know, just because he's a bit stiff and doesn't have the best technique doesn't mean that he's not a good capable fighter. You know, he has a really good record in WSB. He's beaten good fighters. He won the European qualification tournament, beating Majidov in the final, and was neck and neck with Yoka in the semifinals of the World Championships. I thought he won. So, I mean, I think Joe Joyce is good, and he can move pretty quickly once he turns pro.
Ryan, we've had a question in from premium subscriber Brian King, which we're going to tackle after I invite you to really make your final comments on the Olympics. But as you do, if you could go in off this question from Lestin Venables, which is quite a good question I thought over on Twitter, Ryan. If you could pick 3 Olympic boxers to go pro, who would you choose?
Let's see. I think that's tough. I mean, I guess you got to take Shakur Stevenson just because he's not even close to reaching his peak yet, and he's already kind of like a phenom type of talent. Probably the best American talent since Ward, I think, anyway. And let's see, Arlen Lopez, even though it's been a really long time since like a top Cuban that competes at the Olympics type of level has defected. Like, it hasn't happened for quite a while that their number one guy has defected. So I don't think it's that likely, but Arlen Lopez is really, really good, and at middleweight, which is quite a weak weight class, I think he could really go quite far. And then, I mean, I suppose I take Michael Conlon as the other one. I mean, he's so versatile. He can fight any type of style. He's really disciplined, and I think he's going to go far once he turns over. So Conlon, Shakur Stevenson, Arlen Lopez. And I'll give a shout out to Filip Pergovic, the Croatian super heavyweight, who I think out of all these super heavyweights in this Olympics easily has the highest ceiling as a pro. His WSB record is 25-4, and he does the 5 rounds better than he does 3 rounds. So I think he's really going to be suited to a pro, and he's always improving and adding new facets to his game. So Filip Pergovic too.
Great stuff. Hopefully you'll stay on the call for as long as you can, and we'll be going off into the professional stuff, a bit of discussion later on. But a question that came in from Mr. King, which I'm going to throw open to the whole panel. Hopefully we'll get a bit of decent discussion on this one. Brian asked us earlier, he said 1984 US Olympians, Olympic boxing team versus the 1970 each squad, first of all. And then I think there's so many questions. You can make your own questions. We have like an open 26. We have Lewis Curtis, Leo Randolph, Charles Mooney, David Lee Armstrong, Howard Davis Jr., Ray Leonard, Clinton Jackson, Charles Walker Jr., Michael Spinks, Leon Spinks, and Johnny T. 1984 team, where we have Paul Gonzalez, Steve McCrory, Robert Shannon, Meldrick Taylor, Pernell with Mark Breland, Frank Tate, Virgil Hill, Evander Holyfield, Henry Tillman, and Terrell Biggs. On this one first, what are you liking? I'm liking the 84 team, to be honest with you. Who do we think, I suppose, which is the strongest team? That's maybe that's the first question Brian's asking. What are we thinking, guys?
Well, it depends how you're going to look at it. I mean, if you look at it like, say, maybe, fighting each other. So basically, if you go to like 106, that'd be Paul Gonzalez against Lewis Curtis. You could look at them as amateurs. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of these guys fighting as amateurs. I mean, obviously, I know who quite a few of them are, like the Spinks brothers and stuff. But I was doing a bit of digging on one fighter, Charles Mooney. I think he won silver in the 1976 team. He never turned pro, and instead he went on to serve 22 years in the army and retire as a staff sergeant.
Yeah.
It's,
different times, Andy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Howard Davis Jr. you'd probably say is probably the greatest American amateur ever. Val Baker trophy winner. I think he even got lucrative contracts off the back of the gold medal in CBS or something. He was world amateur champion as well.
Well, Mark Breland is also up there with best amateurs, but yeah.
Yep.
Don't forget David Reed. He was supposed to be something huge in the 90s, wasn't he?
Yeah, but we're talking about 84 and 76 teams, though.
Fine.
A lot of love for the 96 team, though, Dave Loback. I actually had the 96 team up in front of me. Some real names there as well. Obviously, Floyd, the main man, Fernando Vargas, David Reed, Antonio Tarver. Dave Lee's favourite, Lawrence Claybay. Roshi Wells didn't really fulfil his potential. Terence Corthen, decent pro. David Diaz, Zahir Rahim. Some good names there too, so I can see where you're coming from.
What was the team that had Holyfield and it was like an all-star team? Was that 92?
84.
That's what we're talking about.
Right, mute him.
This segment's going smooth, isn't it?
What's that, Steve?
I said, if you want to jump in there. The problem is with this segment, maybe Brian should have jumped on himself. I mean, I was 2 in 1984 and I was -6 in 1976, and I'm not American, so I have limited interest in this. But Ryan, maybe he has something to say.
Well, I'm going to just add one thing before he does. Was just that, I think the 1976 team has to be greater because the 84 team faced a field that was devoid of any Soviet or Cuban competitors, which of course were always some of the toughest fighters for the Americans to to face in the Olympic competition. When the 1976 team went to Montreal, they were really only favored to win gold by one guy, which was Howard Davis. The other ones, they had a feeling they would medal, but I don't think they were favored to win gold by anyone except for Davis, and they actually ended up winning, what was it, 7 of them. So that's quite an achievement. In terms of names that you actually look at in the '84 team, I think if you looked at the '84 team just like right next to the '76 team, you would say, wow, like these guys went on to accomplish more as pros. There's more names you recognize, and so I think that, and also of course the sheer number of goals that they won, setting a record. And really it was 10, but it should have been 11 because Holyfield got robbed with the disqualification. So I mean, just the sheer numbers and almost basically clean sweep of the Olympics. That's obviously pretty impressive on paper, but when you consider the background. Now, of course, the other thing too is that I mean it's not as significant, but the '76 team also faced a field that was depleted a little bit because all of the African nations boycotted the Olympics because of the fact that New Zealand hosted. I forget how it worked, but basically it had something to do with like New Zealand being allowed to participate in the Olympic boxing games, in the Olympic Games, after they hosted the South African team during the time of apartheid. So they were very mad that New Zealand was still allowed to compete, even though that they basically flouted an international rule that said that South Africa should be shunned for apartheid. So the African teams boycotted '76, but I mean, with all due respect to the Africans, you really can't compare them to the, not facing Africans versus not facing Cubans, which is what, the '84 team had the benefit of doing. So there's that.
As you say, Tillman would have never won gold in '84 if Stevenson had been there, because I think as well, the Cubans and the Americans had some box off as well before the Olympics. I think the Yanks lost 8-4. I think Stevenson basically beat. I think he beat Tillman as well. It was Tyrell Biggs. Sorry, he beat twice. I think he went on to win super heavyweight gold.
Tillman, of course, Andy beat Mike Tyson in the 1980
the
trials,
box-off,
the Olympic boxing trials.
Something like that. As I say as well, when he turned pro, just like every time he stepped up in class, actually, he just didn't deliver. I mean, was it Tyson? They don't knock him out in one round in the pros.
Yeah.
There we go. But I think that was also one part of Brian's question as well, why did they not turn into good professionals? I mean, apart from obviously you got Holyfield, Whittaker, Virgil Hill, Frank Tate was okay. I can remember him. Mildred Taylor, we know what happened there. He showed all the class in the world and that until he made JC Superstar and got absolutely fucking ruined. The Spinks brothers, we know obviously I rate Michael as the best, even though Leon did so the Agent Ali at that stage of his career anyway, but I know Leon did it. Was it 8 pro fights or something? Sugar Ray Leonard, we know all about him. But one fighter I need to have a wee look at a wee bit more actually was who was it? Frank Tate actually, because I think he was lucky apparently to win gold in '84. I think it was about a hometown decision, and I think he was given 2 standing counts in the final, and he was actually booed when he went to go and pick up his medal as well. And he lost twice to his teammate, Virgil Hill.
What about Milton McCrory's brother, Steve McCrory? Was he a flyweight or a featherweight or something?
I think he was a bit flyweight, I think, mate.
Yeah, I'm going off the hop here. Now he was. I know he was a Detroit boxer. I think he won the gold at flyweight, but he died quite early.
But his career or his life?
This is all it says. Yeah, I'm just in general. I'm just trying to find out more about him. Actually, earlier on, I didn't get a chance to do my due diligence, and
I remember
trying to do it on the
hop.
There, I was trying to find out what happened to him.
I remember watching a fight he had with Jeff Fennick. Actually, that was when it was over all 15 rounds. Actually, he stopped in the 14th. Pretty much if I remember rightly, got a bit of a beating in that fight. So maybe he was never the same after that, Which was quite early in his pro career. I think it was something like 11 pro fights or something at the time.
Yeah.
What's Ryan think of this one?
Anybody else? Yeah. Do you have anything to add, Donna?
No, I said I want to hear what Ryan has to say about this one.
Well, I mean, obviously, 1984 went on to be better pros. Comparing them as amateurs, I mean, it's actually interesting to like I have the Wikipedia page and I'm looking at this stuff, and it's actually interesting how, obviously the African nations boycotted 76, right? And looking at 84, some of the African nations actually medaled. Like there's a Kenyan, a Zambian, Nigerian, Cameroon, and so they did better that year. But it's pretty hard to split them. I mean, I would just go with 84 because of the pros. I mean, because of how they turned out as pros, but with weaker competition at the 84 Olympics with Soviets and Cuba not being there, it's a conundrum. But
I think when it comes to going pro and stuff, from a personal point of view, the 84 team definitely presents more recognisable names. I mean, there's definitely recognisable names, obviously, in 76, but for the sheer numbers and weight, like I was saying earlier, I'd forgot Virgil Hill was even around that long ago, that he was even boxing in the 84 one, and then Holyfield, obviously. I think it was the Kevin Barry, he was disqualified, wasn't it, the New Zealand guy? But Kevin Barry went on to become a manager as well, and I think he still manages Barry.
Joseph Parker's trainer.
Yeah, that's right, he's Parker's trainer. I couldn't quite think who it was. So definitely the 84 team is more recognisable, with the likes of your Meldrick Taylors, your Whitakers, your Brelands, even before you get to the Holyfields and so forth. And Tillman, maybe more infamous. Terrell Biggs, obviously, he was boxing as heavyweight as well. So I would go for 84. Any other final comments on this before we move on to the professional side of things?
In terms of natural talent, actually, who's got the more natural talent out of that team?
I'd take 84.
84. I'm looking at 76 actually. You've got Leonard Davis, obviously, and then Michael Spinks. So
I think one way to look at it is both tournaments give sort of false results in terms of the medals won, particularly the amount of gold medals won, based on the fact that, like you said, was outlined earlier, in both Olympics there were large numbers of amateurs missing. I think the African situation was far different to obviously losing the Eastern Bloc and the sort of communist countries as it would have been. But the 84 team, and it depends how you look at it. I think Brian's question is quite interesting. If you look at it as in what they achieved as pros, then I'd probably lean towards the 76 side, because you've got bigger superstars and guys that went on to do more. There were some big names at 84, but in terms of who achieved more at the Olympics, I'd probably lean towards 84 myself, because I don't think the squad was as strong, and I think they managed to, even if they didn't win gold, they dominated and won medalled in nearly every division, and regardless of who was missing, that's still a pretty good achievement. But yeah,
incidentally, actually, although like some Soviet nations, or most of the Soviet nations and the communist countries, and a couple of Africans, as it says, boycotted. So they made the friendship games, and I think out of the 12 medals in boxing available there, Cuba won 11 out of 12. Just useless fact thrown in there.
If I'm an American, though, I look at these two teams, and if I'm an American boxing fan, I look at these two squads and I cry, because I'm thinking, Jesus, what happened to us? Because someone put a picture up earlier, because obviously England and Great Britain, I say, are doing particularly well at the minute, whereas in '96 we didn't even come in the top 25 as an overall, not just for boxing, and now we're second. And if I'm not the same for the Americans, but in reverse, the quality they had across so many divisions, and forgetting what they did as a pro for a minute, because obviously we're talking two separate sports in a way, to going to what they've got now, where they're pinning all their hopes on one guy this year, and the last two tournaments that have been, nothing short of disastrous. I think I've heard lots of excuses about, young Americans just going to, football now, and boxing isn't pushed as much. But, the NFL was around then. Maybe the money wasn't the same as it was, but, kids were still playing football and baseball and basketball, big guys. I don't understand why there's been such a step change away from boxing, and cities that were producing incredible amateurs like New York and Philadelphia. It seems that seems to have I'm not sure stopped, but certainly that the volume of fighters coming out of those two cities has gone completely.
Well, boxing just isn't as mainstream anymore. I mean, it used to be on like network TV with millions and millions of viewers, and now the viewership is just way down. So it kind of corresponds with that, I think. I mean, even same here in Canada. Like, it's not. Nobody knows a thing about boxing here. There's no presence whatsoever, and obviously we've gone down, not to the same degree the Americans have, but we've gone way down.
I suppose it's like anything. Certain nations peak in terms of just the natural talent that comes through. We see it in other sports where countries will dominate a sport for a decade and then they'll disappear and then they'll come back. But like I said, there's England boxing is still, even though it's becoming a more mainstream sport now, it's still a fringe sport in comparison. The guys that train as boxers that could go and play rugby union or rugby league, or there's a lot of other avenues they could take. But it seems that the amateur clubs and the youth clubs in Britain, despite obviously a lot of cuts in general across the country, seem to be really thriving. And it's an odd one because there's so many Americans. The talent has to be there. The Floyd Mayweathers and Andre Wards are there, but for whatever reason they're not making their way into the Golden Gloves. Or I mean, Los Angeles. I can't remember the tournament. It was one that Oscar De La Hoya came through pre-Olympics. There was a ton of great talent coming through then. And considering how many, Mexican Americans are living in the country, I don't understand why you're not having lots of, I suppose, Latin-born or, Latin parent fighters coming through. You might not have what you had 20 years ago, but the demographics change when you should be much stronger. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure anyone here would know the answer to that, but it is an odd one.
I used to be really in favor of illegal immigration because I thought it would increase our medal count, but, it's really not getting the job done. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to vote Trump.
Donald for Donald.
We gave him a chance. We gave him a chance to help us out with the medal count. It's not working. You know what? I think it's time that this experiment ends.
You see, whenever I was looking into this question, actually, a name from the past popped up. I don't know if you remember this guy. He was 1999 heavyweight world amateur champion, gold medalist, and also 2000 Olympian. Michael Bennett. He was touted for a while as an American prospect. Remember him?
That's a human skyscraper, isn't it? Jesus, man.
Any fans of Michael Bennett out there, Donna? Do you not remember thinking he was going to dominate the heavyweight division?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I ever felt that way, but I did feel
Sloth
that way.
Mitchell.
I did feel that as Dave Loback was saying earlier, David Reed looked very promising. If he didn't have that weird ass eye thing that just ruined his career, he would have been a great fighter. But what are you gonna do?
Well, Felix Trinidad helped ruin his career a little bit as well, I think.
I thought that Michael Grant might be okay before his.
As Barry Merchant said, Michael Grant's chin can be, what do you say? You can compare it to glass, but that would be an insult to glass.
Yeah, before he got hit, I thought Michael Grant might be all right.
Okay, guys, unless anyone has anything else to add, we shall leave the amateur side of things and go into the world of professional boxing, the murky world of professional boxing, as the famous MC Harry McGavock calls it. I'll go through a few results from the weekend first before we discuss anything, to be honest with you, but there was some action of note. Edith Tatley beating Christian Morales in Finland for the European lightweight title. Jack Catterall, Jimmy Kelly got a couple of wins in Lancashire on the type of show that only me and Paul go to. Roy Jones Jr., you all must have forgot, beat Rodney Moore on points. Got an injury, though, according to Andy, on the way to that one. And over in Australia, former Sergei Kovalev victim Blake Caparello got a KO victory in 5 rounds. Also, by the way, guys, on Funny Name Watch, Hurricane Futa got a win on that card. He's now the new interim WBA Oceanic lightweight champion. The interim. Only the interim. Futa. Hurricane Futa.
F-U-T. Oh, I thought you said F-U-P-A. Do you know what a FUPA is, Steve?
No, go on.
You should Google FUPA. It stands for...
I probably...
Get
off, Tommy.
Is it Spanish, Donny?
No.
Google it on your wife's laptop.
No thanks.
A flute foot is a
She's holding it. Right, and also Turd Chai Duwang Mong Tree got a win as well over in Australia, so I thought you'd like that one, Donny. Right, yeah, in Mexico, Antonio Margarito beat Ramon Alvarez via split decision. The main thing I saw to about round 8, Andy, I know you watched till about round 5. The one question I was going to throw out in regards to this, will Margarito be in line to fight a certain fellow Mexican fighter, but was there ever a fight that you guys were watching where you were genuinely concerned about a fighter taking punches, and even to the point where you actually winced whenever you saw him taking a shot? Think back to like a Katsidis Coil, where you know that a fighter is not right. You know Margarito is hurt. He shouldn't really be fighting. And every time he took a punch, you were starting to get a bit worried about him. Have you ever felt like that about a fighter in a contest?
Probably Big Enzo, because who was the guy who knocked him out badly? Was it Franco? I think it was Franco who knocked him out pretty badly. You just seen his head just kind of like whipping off the bottom rope and stuff. So you always kind of worried about Big Enzo kind of going into fights. I remember I mentioned it before actually. Oval McKenzie, the first fight. There was a lot of, I would say that people, fans, I suppose, would be saying that they were kind of worried about him. So Ian John Lewis, I think he maybe allowed himself to be kind of allowed or kind of swayed by the public perception that Enzo couldn't take a punch. Of course, what happened when he took the first barrage, which he kind of blocked, that stopped the fight. Watching the fight actually that I can think of recently, that it's been pretty awful to watch, and the guy's been badly injured, and that would probably be Lebedev against Jones. That's always the one that kind of springs to mind. Remember Big Enzo against Bremer as well. He was fighting no bad in that, but you just wonder if he had both eyes working there, could he win the fight?
I will throw in Graham Earl as well. Towards the end of his career, Graham Earl was really slurring in pre-fight interviews, and I just felt for him every time he took a punch to the head, you could just tell it wasn't doing him any favours anyway. It wasn't doing him any good.
One fighter actually as well is wee Vic Darcinian. I'm kind of actually a wee bit worried about him actually, because obviously he was a good fighter in his prime and stuff, but he's taking too many knockout defeats now, or he's going against bigger guys. I think he got stopped there 2 rounds. Was it middle of last month? I think it was.
Yeah.
Crolla brutally knocked him out. Nicholas Walters fucking rewired him. He's been in with the best. There's no doubt in that. He's a brave wee bastard, but he must be pushing. If he's no 40, he must be pushing 40. So I think it's time for him to call it a day. I didn't want to see him going into the ring anymore and taking too many punches and stuff, because, as you say, Steve, I posted a video up recently with Terry Norris. He sounds absolutely dreadful. Some of the fights he's been in and stuff, the punishment that he took.
He's still in good physical shape.
Physical shape, but his neurology is actually pretty poor.
But I was inspired by the one interview I saw with him and his wife, because he knows the kind of condition he is neurologically, and he slurs and he shakes, but he says he still thinks it's worth it. So I don't know. I really respected that.
Anybody else they want to jump in or talk about Margarito himself?
I'm not a fan of Margarito. I think there's 2 schools of thought with Margarito going back to Glovegate. And I understand the people that defend him, and I'm very much on the opposite side. I think
Don Tony.
I won't go into it because, like I said, it's a never-ending debate. Shep, he obviously, and many others are very much on the side of, it was. There's no proof and everything else, but
there isn't any proof.
Well, there isn't definitive, but the evidence was there for him to be banned. And anyway,
for the Mosley fight, but you hear a little flag cop
for other stuff,
and whining and bitching. That was glorious. I'm going to watch that fight again.
Yeah,
the next
you know what?
Olympics.
Margarito may have done it for the 10 fights previous, or he may have never done it. We just don't know. That's just the way it is. However, 2 reasons why I don't want to see Antonio Margarito in the ring right now. Number one, because he's fighting with an injury. He's not fighting with someone who breaks his hand all the time, or someone who has Sergio Martinez like leg problems or back problems. We're talking about his eyesight. Would he get sanctioned to fight in most states in America right now? I don't know. I'm sure there's someone that would say yes. And if he wants to fight against the level of opposition that he fought last night in Mexico, or where it was he fought, if he wants to do that, of course, he can carry on doing it. What bothers me is when you start to hear this. Antonio Margarito versus Canelo Alvarez is a possibility.
His eye will fall out in that fight, by the way. I'm telling you right now,
Yeah,
his eye will fall out.
yeah. What can Canelo do quite well? Punch friggin' hard. What does Antonio Margarito's face not need to be punched very hard? I think, and do you know what? We just talked about the amateur game, and all we talked about was the results and everything else. And now we're on to the professional game, and we're talking about a one-eyed guy who's been knocked out by Shane Mosley, knocked out by, or not knocked out, battered senseless by Manny Pacquiao, beaten up by Miguel Cotto in the second fight. And there are serious people.
He did not beat him up.
Okay, lost widely, if you want to say it in more polite terms.
Good. Stick to the facts, please. Thank you.
There you go. We'll go with lost widely. There are serious people who are now talking about the possibility that he could fight the guy who beat Miguel Cotto and who is just at the height of his game. It's absolutely insane, but if this happens because Billy Joe Saunders poos himself and doesn't fight Canelo in December because he's too busy not fighting anyone, would it surprise me if Golden Boy gave Tony Margarito the call? No. Would it surprise any of you lot?
No.
It would make me fucking vomit.
You'll fight him. Wait, I swear to God, Steve, no, it wasn't you, it was Kurt who said to me actually, he says, I've got a horrible feeling, I think this was about Tuesday or Wednesday, and he says, I've got a horrible feeling they're going to make this Canelo fight with Margarito, and I shit you not, I got up this morning, and then, I forget who actually mentioned it, I remember that, Margarito fought last night, so I went even checked the fight out, and I went to the boxing scene halfway through the fight, and there it was, on its banner, Margarito calls out Canelo, and I went, you are fucking majesting me, man. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it said that, yeah.
His eye, as I say, his eye will fucking fall out in that fight. And see if it does, he'll keep fighting.
But how would you guys see the Margarito before the eye injury going with Canelo? I think he would beat him. I think Canelo doesn't have the gas tank to hold him off.
But Margarito, man, I mean, he was all about pressure. You know, last night, well, Steve will tell you. I mean, it was more kind of jabbing, trying to box his way in. Steve. I mean, there was times he was fighting, or he was throwing kind of like lead right hands with power on them and stuff. But really, it's no Margarito anymore. We're looking at here. We're looking at a guy who's well faded, and as Paul says, still injured.
Yeah, he's shot.
His face was a mess too. His face was a mess too, Dave. It really was. Amir Khan jumped on the line. Amir, what's happening? What do you want to discuss?
Amir Khan.
Hi guys.
Jump in, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to talk about the Crolla Linares fight. I want to see what you guys think.
Oh, Ryan's jumped off. He doesn't think anything. What do you think, first of all? How do you see it going, Amir?
I can see him, Linares, stopping Crolla late on, like he did with Mitchell. I can't see Crolla lasting the full fight. I can see him getting stopped.
Anybody else have anything to say? What do you think?
I think Crolla can last the distance. I think he'll have the typical Joe Gallagher game plan, which is to fight defensively until your opponent gasses. The thing is, I don't think that Linares is going to wilt like Crolla's last opponent did. So he's going to unload on Crolla. He might not be landing cleanly all the time, but he'll be winning the rounds. He's just so much more offensively talented than Crolla. Now, having said that, I don't think that Crolla is out of this fight. I think that a guy as brittle and as papery and as bloody as Linares has been, as vulnerable as the guy is, despite his talent, Crolla absolutely has a chance here. He could hurt him to the body and the head, I think. It's a good fight. I'd say probably a 60-40 fight maybe for me. Linares on points.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. I think Linares on points as well. I've said it before, I'm a huge Linares fan. I think talent-wise, top 10 pound-for-pound guy, skill-wise, I think he really is that talented, but he has so many deficiencies. His skin, his chin, he'll just tear up, and can Crolla exploit that? I don't know. We've got Adam Smido-Smith still on the line. Maybe this is more your cup of tea, Adam. Can you see Linares stopping Crolla, or will he be able to force it late?
Well, yeah, I agree. I think it's set up for Crolla, to be honest. obviously, you've got to give credit to Linares, but his face just busts up all the time. And the one thing that Crolla will do is keep when he's let out of the cage by Joe Gallagher, he'll keep a high work rate and he'll throw a lot of punches. So,
In the cage.
but it is genuinely a cracking fight. And it's one of them that we should get more of, to be honest. A genuine world title, unification, whatever they want to call it, whether that be diamond or bloody silver or bronze, whatever. But, it is, definitely two of the top three in the world facing each other, and we don't have to pay any extra for it, ladies and gentlemen. So, let's take it for what it is. The undercard will probably be pants as a result of that. But I'm picking Crolla, but it is going to be a close fight. But not only will I think it'll be a close fight, it'll be a good fight, and that is the difference, and one that we should look forward to.
A couple of questions for you. Number one, are you going to the fight? And number two, regarding the belt situation, are you favouring more Eddie's summation about that this is a genuine belt and everything's working out, or do you agree with Frank Warren's assertion that it's basically a fake belt with hundreds and thousands sprinkled on top of it?
Tell him he's on mute as well.
You're on mute, Emma.
I think the belt situation is a load of rubbish. I think the winner will cement their place, at the top of the division. For me, anyway. I think if Crolla does lose, I think Eddie will make the rematch, like he did last time. I can see that happening. Going to the fight, I'm not too sure. Do I want to go? Yeah. It depends what the undercard's going to be like. I've heard is it still getting sorted, or it's been sorted?
It's still being worked on, I think.
Yeah, well, it's only 5 weeks away, and it's virtually non-existent. So that's an indication of how good this undercard's going to be.
That was an Eddie answer for me, wasn't it? Still being worked on.
Well, they've got Isaac Lowe fighting off against that guy that Quigg smashed out, the South African boy. I think it was Quigg that beat him. 2 rounds. That Munyai.
The atomic spider.
That's the one.
He
That's the one.
fought Martin Power about 10 years ago.
Yep. Jose Burton's fighting Frank Buglione, so
that's not too bad.
It might be. No, I was going to say it might be no bad too.
Yeah.
Decent fight. That Conor Ben, obviously, he gets his. He's fighting Tomas Bogdan Adrapayov.
Oh, he's good. He is. Yeah, that'll be.
He's everywhere, mate. That boy.
Apart from him.
Doesn't win many fights, so.
I just sort of realized how crazy it is that we're talking about a guy who got stopped and knocked out by Dirty Derry Matthews, having a legitimate chance here against a guy as talented and as pedigreed and as top level as Jorge Linares. It's crazy the way he's improved.
He was a very good amateur crawler as well before.
The thing with Crolla is, like I said, I think he has adapted his style to a point, but I worried that the tactic which worked so well in his last fight was basically do nothing, soak up an awful lot of punches, move, and then when the guy gets tired, knock him out.
Well, he was fucked because of the weight straight away anyway. Once he worked the body, that was it.
Exactly. So it worked against that fighter, a bit like, when Homer Simpson is knocking out people because they all fall over, and then he fights Drederick Tatum, and Tatum will just beat him up all night. I'm not sure whether Linares... I mean, I don't rate Linares as high as some people do. I think he's a good fighter, but I think he can be shown he can be outboxed at points. I'm really struggling because I've said that I'll never back against Anthony Crolla again because I backed against him against John Murray. I backed against him in the Derry draw. I backed against him
Paul,
against Bro.
Anybody seen this behemoth on fucking what do you call her? This Brazilian behemoth? There's one there. Fucking hell, size of that woman.
What channel are we on, mate? BBC One or what?
I'm on the computer watching it. Middleweight. Okay. Fucking hell.
I'm just watching England's finest Andy Murray at the moment. To be fair, track cycling does nothing for me, so I'm on the tennis.
Anyway, on you go.
Yeah. I've backed gold medal Jason Kenny. Go on, the boy. I've backed against him so many times that I'd feel very, very silly doing it again in this fight. Linares should win. For that point Donnie said, the way that Crolla has come on from where he was, he's remarkable. But I think it depends on what Tesco Joe, Super Joe Gallagher has planned, whether he manages to put something together. they can't go into Linares and let Linares whack away for 5 rounds on the belief that Crolla will catch him late. If Crolla is down at the midpoint of the fight, he won't win this. He's got to start quickly. It's a great fight. I really like it. There's a reason why there's quite a big clown for people to go and want to go see this live, because potentially this could be excellent. I don't think Linares could ever be accused of being boring. I'm a big fan of it to watch, but I'm a big fan to watch, but I don't think he's as good as some people think he is.
Amir, before we let you go, I have another question for you, actually. I think it was Hater Dave mentioned about Billy Joe Saunders earlier. We're going to have a brief chat regarding Saunders, actually. He was very vocal on social media this week. I don't know if everybody's seen this, but he was having a go at Fat Dan for not taking the Rosado fight. Dan had a few words with him. So Billy Joe Saunders, as verbose as he is, replied directly to Dan with this little nugget. Okay, bring me your mother, you fat cunt, and I'll bend the slag over. You talk a lot, but you need to get over your fat ass. And then after that, he went on to call Fat Dan a fat-head paedophile. You remind me and look like a pedo, Dan. What's going on here? Not so much with his chat with Dan, Amir, but in general with Billy Joe. I mean, he seemed to as well have, like, not a dig at Frank, but say, ask Frank when I'm fighting next. It's up to him. He puts the opponents to me. Is he getting annoyed with Frank? Is he just not fit enough? Why is he not taking this Rosado fight?
I watched the latest IFL interview that he gave, and he does seem frustrated. It's like he's over in MGM, is it? Training?
Yeah.
He's obviously not wanting to be there. He'd rather be fighting and, have it over and done with. But I think he had something up with his hand. That Max Berzak fight were cancelled. I don't know if that was.
What a load of shit.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm hearing he's massive weighing just now, actually. Well, he was definitely fucking well over fucking 14 stone for
He's
what I
about
was here.
15 stone, isn't he?
Woofed.
it did look
Even
fat
worse.
in the interview. And also, he was slagging off Golovkin, again, having a dig at Frank Warren, saying, put the money up, then I'll fight. So it's like saying Brooks fighting him because Eddie's put the money up, and Frank's not done that for me, so I'm not fighting him, kind of thing. Which makes sense. I mean, if he's going to fight someone and get absolutely ruined, he should be paid for it, shouldn't he?
How long until he gets stripped, though?
Peanuts.
Is it, maybe this is common knowledge, but is he do you think he's guaranteed to fight Canelo if he gets past Smith, if that fight takes place? I mean, and he's saying that you don't need to take this fight in the interim or, before your next one, it's already sort of on the table for you. Is that an issue?
I think that could well be the case.
Is that Smith fight actually happening, mate? Wink,
Yeah,
wink.
yes, it's on.
Is it definitely on?
Yeah, it's all on. So, I mean, do we think that's the case?
I
But
think
why
that
wouldn't-
could well
why-
be the case.
Why wouldn't Billy Joe just want to go and batter Gabe? Billy Joe beats Gabe Rosado 10 times out of 10. I don't understand why he wouldn't take the fight, get a bit of exposure. The risk-reward ratio is massively in his favour. I mean, yeah, you could go into December and fight Canelo, but why not go in against a guy who is famous for making opponents look good because his face will resemble, 20 bottles of ketchup falling on the floor. And it looks like Billy Joe will have absolutely done a number on him, even though he probably won't because he's not that big a puncher. And then it sets up a decent fight in December. I don't get it. But I've given up trying to understand Billy Joe sometimes because the opportunities that he's passed over, and as much as things have worked out in terms of the belt, he could have fought 3 or 4 times more than he has. And he could have earned an awful lot more money than he has. It's as if he let Warren chase the Eubank rematch fight so much when he should have been concentrating on what he was doing himself. And, Saunders Canelo is a pretty good fight. I quite like that. But wouldn't it be good to see Saunders actually beat someone in America that the American fans could say, okay, yeah, he's a good opponent, and make the fight bigger?
Are we accepting that he's actually turned down the Rosado fight? I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors, isn't it, really? But he was guaranteeing on that IFL interview that he was fighting in September. Well, we're on August of, what is it today? August the 14th. I mean, and so, we've got no opponent, we've got no venue, we don't even know what... It was meant to be on the Canelo and Smith undercard at one point. That's gone out the window. He seems to be firing shots at Frank on the quiet, or not so quiet. He's getting fat. He's over in Spain getting fat. I just can't fathom what's going on. Just take the paydays. But I just think we're edging towards a Canelo fight in December. To be honest, that's as Steve alluded to.
Obviously, he saw Creed and Gabe Rosado's performance as Leo Sparino in that and got scared.
I mean, but honestly though, we're not even having a go and saying Gabe Rosado is a shocking fight, which it is. You know, that is not credible in any way you look at it. But we're almost not defending it, but we're almost saying we would accept that. Well, it's still shit. So
it's
we
better
either
than
get
nothing.
shit out the
It's
ring,
better
or we
than
get
nothing,
shit in
Adam.
the ring.
Which is what we're getting. We're just getting nothing from him. Absolutely nothing.
But,
A year out.
Well, yeah. But
I think it would have been an okay fight.
Yeah.
What benefit is it to us, Billy Joe fighting Rosado? That's no benefit to us. That's only a benefit to Frank Warren's pocket and Billy Joe Saunders' pocket. It's no benefit to us. We all know what's going to happen. Paul's described what's going to happen. You know, I just think that people like Chris Eubank and like Billy Joe, they've both ducked the same man. And to me, outside of this podcast and a few conversations on Twitter, they're almost getting away with it. Like they're almost. It's that easy for him to get away with it. Like Chris Eubank is still putting stuff on social media saying, "Oh, when you've dealt with Kell Brook, come and fight a real middleweight." Well, you've had your opportunity and you've turned it down. And then Billy Joe's still getting away with saying in his interview, "Put the money up and I'll fight you." You've had the offer, you've turned it down, and they just seem to be getting away. Everyone across all weights seem to be getting away with ducking the best people.
I had a question for you, Adam, but I can't even remember what it was now. Oh,
Don't
do we
ask me
think
anything about amateurs?
No, we're amateurs. Do you think that Billy Joe soon could be rocking up at Matchroom Towers?
Potentially. There's always potential virtually for anyone in the country that's not already at Matchroom Towers to rock up there. I would assume that Frank's got him in some sort of contract, or I'd hope really for Frank's sake. I don't really know the ins and outs.
They never really have, though, have they? We hear about contracts, but most of the time they just go.
Well, yeah, and it does backfire for some people, i.e. Ricky Burns, and it has backfired for him. Yeah, there's always potential, and obviously with the size of stable that Matchroom have now got, there would always be fights for Billy Joe, but it's not difficult to envisage or predict or ask the question about when you do see what Eddie is delivering for some of his fighters. The stadiums, the fights, or the big fights, it's on pay-per-view, they're getting the opponents now as well. From time to time, it's easy to see why the question is being asked.
Boxing guru Adam Smith there, giving it to you hard and straight, as always. Amir, anything else before we let you go?
Yeah, just last comment. I think Billy Joe might leave Frank if he doesn't get him a big fight before the year's out. I just think he's seen everyone else getting all these fights. You've got Liam Smith, Kell Brook, then he's just sat there, you know, doing nothing basically, and he's getting annoyed, and you can see that. And I think if he doesn't get a big fight, he'll jump ship.
I agree with you. Amir, thanks for coming on as always, man. Speak to you soon.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Amir Khan there, the only Amir Khan that matters to us, guys. Nuthouse podcast jumped on. Is that you, Kurt, or was that Andy?
It's me, mate.
And it's like you coming in with like someone's coat and like a hood over your head or something. We don't quite know who you are.
You know what it was? Fucking Donnie was sending comments. He must be on the phone or something. So I'm on the laptop reading it. I said, right, I'm going to leave this conversation. It then cut out on my computer. I'm like, what the fuck? So I then tried to sign back into it again. It wouldn't allow me access. So I just logged out and used this account instead. So here I am.
Right, well, you're back just in time for some more Twitter questions, and then we'll be hitting the road.
I gotta say, I prefer the other display picture that Andy normally has to this one.
So do I, mate.
Right, Donnie, are you still with us?
Yeah.
Are you still conscious?
Yeah.
Good man. Right, Steve Antrobus has asked you and you alone this question. Do you think that boxing will ever go back to the best fighting the best?
I think to a limited extent it has to, or else the sport will not thrive. But, you know, I mean, it'd be one of those things where we just have to wait for fights for longer than we'd want them to happen. But, I mean, I'm hopeful that maybe if Aram and Heyman are willing to start working together to make some fights, they, you know, supposedly they are, that could be promising. I think HBO has shown now that they're not going to pay or overpay for nothing fights, or if they do, it has to be something that's setting up a big one. So, for instance, they just gave Ward a decent paycheck for fighting Alexander Brand, but the deal was that they would only do that if he was going to fight Kovalev, right? If he wasn't going to do it, they wouldn't just pay for appearance fights.
Yeah, makes sense.
They're getting more judicious about what fights they'll buy, and so promoters, I think, have to give him the product that they demand, or else they're just not going to do it. And with Heyman, I think as he's, all right, he has brought a lot of fighters into his stable. He's sort of started to run out of, I mean, some people say he's run out of money. I don't know if that's really true or not, but I think what is clear is that I think we're starting to see him make some more fights, particularly at least within the stable. I think now that he's spent a lot of money getting all these fighters under his umbrella, basically pricing other promoters out of the market and just trying to corner the market on talent. Well, he didn't create a monopoly like I think he thought he would, but he's got so much talent now that I think he just needs to start matching them together and hoping that the fans will come and watch. So I think that it's going to get better. I don't think it's going to get any worse. How can it? But anyways, yeah. I mean, I'm hopeful for the future, but I don't think you'll ever see anything like like we saw years ago, where guys, top guys within the division would fight 3 times in the span of a year or something. I mean, that just won't happen. But I mean, it'll be better than it is now, in my opinion.
Dave Loback, question from me, Steve. Kovalev Ward, I was thinking about this during the week. Main events versus Rock Nation. Big promotional experience lacking here. There's been a few things shown up in the build-up about not being able to nail things down, announcements being made. Tommy doesn't know where he's going for the fight. Can we trust these guys to promote the fight together?
I don't think so. I think they're just about as shady as half a buck. I mean, they put on less shows than 50 Cent did. I know 50 Cent failed miserably ultimately as a promoter, and his guys all lost. But Rock Nation has some serious talent here. Just let that talent fight and showcase itself. This sort of kind of cagey negotiation they're not well seasoned in the boxing business. I don't think it's helping anybody, and it's making them look bad. So I worry for this fight. Hopefully it gets done. I don't know if Ward not showing at that presser was down to him or down to their recommendation or what, but I'm not a big fan of how Rock Nation's been doing business. I had high hopes for them because I figured they'd be a new face in the business who would be willing to do business with other promoters and had a big bankroll, but so far they haven't shown us too much. And what is it with these one-fight cards? I mean, if it's going to be on free TV, fine, but don't give us one-fight cards and expect us to pay money for that. Also, I'm sorry to David Lee. I slandered him earlier. He was not the one who put money on none of our male Olympians getting a medal. It was our old friend Jason Chukwu from the chat.
The Chuck?
Good old Chukwu.
Oh dear. Jason, if you're around, call in. We miss you. Andy, this is a request I never thought I would hear, but Liam Wynn has asked, would you guys consider commentating live on the next big fight? Maybe Triple G versus Brook? Perhaps do a live stream commentating like you did sort of with the Olympics last week?
You said next big fight there. Is that no a junior podcast or something like that?
I'm not getting involved in that one, Andy.
No, well, obviously, Donnie, being the legal counsel, says we need to actually get a broadcast license to do that shit. You just never know. There is a lot of grassies out there. Love to do it sometime, mind you. But I'm not going to do it for that fucking shit. Golovkin Brook, come on.
Andy, do you know why it wouldn't work? It wouldn't work because Dave Lee would be watching it at home on pay-per-view, and he'd be ahead of everyone. I'd be in the pub next to people shouting about Conor Benn being pound for pound. Alex and you would be about 5 minutes behind because you're watching it on streams, and then Steve would have 3 kids screaming in the background. The Americans wouldn't be watching because they don't care. I'm not sure it's a great idea myself.
Well, actually, the only reason, and that's absolutely right, but the only reason I wouldn't be watching this is on that particular day in September, I happen to be busy, and I don't know if I can take out 1 to 2 minutes for the Golovkin Brook fight.
No, I've still got a ticket for. I've got a ticket for it, and I keep. I mean, I've even bought a train ticket to get down there now. But I still don't even know if I'm going to go, because part of me thinks this could be amazing and a chance to see Golovkin live. Another part of me thinks that Kell Brook could fall over inside 2 minutes, and I'll have sat there going, why have I spent all this money and gone down to my least favourite place in the world just to watch this? But
yeah, but you've already paid for it. You've already paid.
But I've also sold it on the proviso that if I don't go, then I can sell it. And I'm going on my own, and I've been to lots of shows on my own as Press Pass Paul. But you know, when you go to like a show, and like if you go to the cinema or something, there's a guy on his own, and you always think, why is he on his own, the weirdo? Like, that's going to be me at the boxing. I'm going to be sat next to a bunch. I know, but like, not to my face.
You're going to be PD Webb.
What?
PD Webb.
Why don't you just chance it and put it on StubHub for 10 grand?
Because I'm not a cunt.
Just chance it.
Oh, but no, it should. None of you lot going at all. Then is no one going?
No, I just refuse to go to London. Simple.
Well, I'm with you on that, but you know, it's.
Well, I've been there, done that. I've done it in the most famous stadium in the world. I don't need to go to the O2.
You did it in the fight when everyone on the boxing asylum turned on Gennady Golovkin. That's what that fight will always be remembered for.
What fight?
Lemieux.
No, we never turned against Golovkin for that. There were two of us on the podcast that wasn't impressed with it. That was all.
I'm going down to Dave Lee's house to watch it in Limerick. He doesn't know yet, but that's
it's all right. Dave will order you a pay-per-view, mate. Don't worry. He'll order 3. He'll order 1 for each room if you stay over.
A backup pay-per-view.
He doesn't know it yet, but Steve's going to break into his house.
I'll tell you what, it would be quicker for me to get on the plane from Belfast and fly to London and go to the O2 than it would be to drive down to Limerick, honestly. I'd save about 2 hours going to the fight. So anyway, Press Pass Paul's dead, long live Paul David. Paul, right, I've got a question for you. Lestin Venables is asking, would you like the judging like the Olympics where there is 5 judges but 3 get picked randomly in professional contests as well?
No. No. It just makes the system more complicated in terms of where do they sit, what angles do they watch at. The Olympic judge, there's nothing about the Olympic judging that I'd want put into boxing in terms of the scoring, definitely, because it's hysterically stupid. And as much as the 10-point the system is certainly, in some ways, it's better than it used to be. Watching a guy get knocked down 2 times in a round and then have one judge giving him 10-9 and 2 judges only giving him the loss of 10-9 is ridiculous. 3 judges is fine. It's never been the quantity of judges that's the problem. It's just the quality of the judging that's always been the issue. You could have 10 judges. All it would mean is that 7 might be wrong as opposed to 2 being wrong. So no, keep it. As much as judging needs an awful lot of work, keep it as it is. 3 is. Do you know what you'd end up with? It'd be a bit like, like it when you get like the extra referee, extra linesman behind the goals in Champions League, yeah. And they don't do anything. How would you randomly assign which judges? Like if you're a promoter and you've had to pay for 5 judges and only 3 of them do any work, no one would go for it. So no.
Adam, this was more of a comment from Dippo Osho, but I'm going to use it as a question anyway. This might be a stupid question, but why doesn't David Price fight David Hay and the winner fights Femi early next year? Why not, Adam? Why?
No, because there's too much to lose, Steve. In this day and age, you have to think of not what can be gained, but what can be lost. Now, if David Price if David Price loses again, he loses his whole career. And if David Hay loses again, then he's one big payday that he has recovered from this shoulder injury for years and put all the hours in for this one big payday will be up in smoke. So what we're going to continue to do in the meantime is fight 50-year-old grey-haired bums like Shannon Briggs and Latvian bricklayers. That's what we're going to do in the interim, and then we're going to all wait for the AJ payday on pay-per-view live from the O2 Arena.
Adam sounds like Hayes' manager now.
And that's why they won't fucking fight each other. David A is a prick of the sport.
No disagreements here with that one, like.
No. Not going to find too much debate to be had here.
Okay, fair enough. Andy, following on the heavyweight theme, actually, Edward Mays asking on the Facebook page, how much would you pay to see Hay versus Briggs on the rumoured new ITV box office channel? There is actually a new ITV box office channel, isn't there?
Is that a real thing as well?
Well, I've seen some comments on the website actually that the ITV were getting a pay-per-view license or some shit. How much would that pay for, Shannon? Was this to go to it or actually just to watch it?
No, to pay to watch it on the box office.
Oh, that is a question and a half, that.
Well, put it this way: I didn't pay for Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao. Right? So what chance have you got?
That's the standard.
That is the standard. You know, I'm very picky.
What would Dave Lee pay for it? That's the question.
You know, Dave Lee pays for everything, man.
Exactly.
Anybody else? What would you lot pay for it?
What would I pay for it on ITV pay-per-view? I mean, even a $5's a lot. Like, no, I won't pay for that, to be honest. We need to, Steve, tomorrow when you've got note on it at work as normal, get a graphic done up for Andy saying, I didn't even pay for Floyd Mayweather versus Pacquiao.
Donny, couple of bucks, yeah?
For what?
For Hay Briggs on ITV pay-per-view.
Oh, I'd pay $10 for that just for fun. Yeah, definitely.
If I knew that my payment would cause Hay to get sparked into a coma, I'll pay $100,000.
Yeah,
yeah, but it ain't gonna happen with Briggs.
Donny, you should be paying that $10 to homeless cunts you abused in the street rather than give you that money to fucking David Hay. That roided up Shannon Briggs. Come on, man.
Right, we've lost PD Webb now. I think we're on to the final question. Donny, I'm going to give you this one. It's from Grant Riley. Who has the better resume, Danny Garcia or Terence Crawford? I see they're having a little spat on Twitter. I would have to say Garcia has the better resume, but if they get in the ring, I think Crawford boxes his ears off and probably stops him late. It would be an interesting fight because Garcia, for all his flaws, has excellent timing and decent power. So even though he is behind on points, he would never be out the fight. Grant, where's the full stops? Just wondered the panel's thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, first of all, Danny Garcia has Amir Khan on his resume, so obviously his resume is just inherently better.
Bullshit.
No. But I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, Garcia does have a better resume, but I mean, that's if you're going strictly by the book. Of course, some of those decisions are questionable. And also, I mean, Crawford's really hot right now, and he's coming off some big wins. Namely the Victor Postal win. And I mean, he's just riding a real hot streak. He looks to be the one in better form. If they were fighting tomorrow, there's no doubt I would pick Crawford, hands down. In fact, I even, have the $200 bet with Andy that's standing out there for Pacquiao versus Crawford.
It was £200, dickhead.
Okay, 200. But
Donny's trying to get better value here.
What was that fight again?
Pacquiao Crawford.
Oh, aye, that fight's never happening anyway. I'm very, very sure about that.
What about Garcia Crawford though?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Crawford all day. But I mean Garcia right now. I think probably has an argument for the better resume, but there's no question in my mind that Crawford's the more complete fighter, and that he is hot right now, and he's the man to beat.
Is Pacquiao Vargas happening? It is, isn't it?
Yep, signed and sealed and almost delivered.
Anybody interested?
Nope.
It's because and Andy, you want to know why? It's because Pacquiao's camp doesn't want Crawford. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, I know he doesn't want Crawford. I mean, fucking Roaches just basically made that clear. And plus, any day, Pacquiao decides who he fights, when he fights, how he fights.
So Roach thinks it's a dangerous fight, but you're confident Pacquiao would win.
Of course I would.
But Freddie Roach, who's worked with his fighter
Freddie Roach talks shit, man. You should listen to the fucking Most Wise.
Andy the Most Wise, Tommy the Guru. Donny, have you got any sort of moniker yet, no?
No, but
Donny Dildo. Donny Dildo.
Donny Baseball. He talks about baseball.
Donny Diva.
You're hater Dave. Adam the Betting Guru. What am I, the controversy? Yeah.
You're the what do you call me again? You're the rider.
The watercress in the Vindaloo.
Award-winning Steve Wellings.
Right, okay. We have our previews and then we're out of here. There's no value of the week this week. There are a couple of comments of note I'm just going to add in. Now, this was the week that Oscar De La Hoya told Box Nation, I believe Liam Smith will be Canelo's toughest opponent behind Floyd Mayweather. Okay, Oscar. My friend Ellie Seckbach, me and Ellie, yeah, we're like that now. Pando has sent in a comment that Setback made Bellew of the Week worthy. He thinks Gabe Buzzardo is more popular than Triple G. Okay, Ellie. And also, finally, from Nump Tapestry, apparently Chris Eubank offered Brook £250,000 to duck Triple G, then deleted the tweet. Did anybody see that?
No.
But the winner
By
has
the
to be,
Eddie
if you're
Hearn
doing it.
Kill Brook.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. The winner has to be Saunders' comment, Dave Lowback, doesn't it, against Fat Dan?
Yeah, not just one comment, but a series of them, insinuating that Fat Dan was a pedophile, and he's going to bend his mum over.
I tell you what, I hope she's no fat, otherwise she'll need to fart to find the wet spot, like.
Oh, Jesus. Here, before we go on to Earl Spence Jr., this was the week that was, guys. I nearly forgot the retirement of the great Marcus Maidana.
Oh, Chino.
Well,
Chino.
great's a bit strong.
Chino, hey, come on,
Adam,
listen.
what did he do? What did he do that we all love? Come on now.
Well,
tell
I'll
us.
tell you right now, see, Donny and Dave will be the best two people to answer because they were on the forum at the time when they're still working. It's coming back live soon. But who said for years, guys, that this guy was fucking nothing but hype?
Me.
Did you fuck?
I did. I said
Daly.
he was
who was fighting Daly with fucking Brandon? Eh? Come on.
I don't know.
Come
Wait,
on.
what do you
I said
think?
he was
What was the most wise? I was trying to be as fucking objective as possible about how overrated and overhyped he was, by the way. Right? He's a fucking skilled bum. That's what he is.
He's a skilled bum.
I think that's a bit strong as well.
What?
I don't think
Oh,
he's
well.
a bum.
I'm not saying he's like an all-time great, brilliant, but it was more than a skilled bum, and he was less than a great. He was decent.
Fuck
Gave
Cloner.
Floyd a good fight. Got out.
Gave Floyd a good fight. You know, look at the Mar. I mean, okay. I mean, he's been good value for money, I suppose. I mean, after he went to what do you call him? Garcia, he kind of improved his jab a wee bit and stuff, and you can see that jab as well working against Brunner as they kind of dropped it to the fucking body and came out of top. Knocked him down. That was a glory. Honestly, see, after that fight, I was bouncing. I couldn't get to sleep that night. Actually, the Sunday I was bouncing. I actually went. I hate going shopping with a wife. I fucking detest it. Right? Absolutely hate it. And that Sunday I got dragged away Christmas shopping actually, and it was tremendous. I skipped about the fucking place just by a smile on my face, counting down the hours to get on the fucking podcast.
And you back pumping people in the shops the way that
honestly, mate,
Marcus did to Boner.
I was high fiving. I was like fucking bromancing every male I could get my hands on and stuff like that. It was absolutely glorious. You know, I was counting down the hours for the podcast to start, and we just let it rip that night. I need to find that podcast again. Actually, listen.
That
to
was
it.
decent, to be fair.
That was fucking brilliant.
That must have been the most jubilant I think I've ever been watching live boxing, and then that's all thanks to Chino. Yeah, I mean, I'll love him forever for that.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna go in the hardcore Hall of Fame for that. But I mean, he has had a more than decent career though. I mean, I remember the first time I saw him was that Victor Ortiz fight on them. I think that Sky played that the morning after.
He lost to Katelnik. He should have probably maybe even deserved to get the decision against Katelnik actually. But as you say, Adam brought in for that fight.
Yeah.
That was a great fight. That fucking Ortiz.
You know, it's not easy for these Argentinians really. You know, he had quite a few fights in Argentina early doors, then went off to Germany, lost to Katelnik, and then that Ortiz fight was an excellent fight. The Khan fight was an excellent fight. So you know, he's had some decent fights along the way. I mean, you could even argue the Morales fight was a very good fight.
Oh hell yeah!
Devin Alexander just bored him for 10 rounds, and then obviously went in with the likes of Soto, Caras, and he gave. I mean, I think in the first fight, it's difficult to say that he pushed Floyd close, regardless of what the scorecards or the hype said afterwards. But at least he offered something different to others. At least he didn't have the Guerrero or the Berto or the Canelo to some extent attitude where he was defeated before the final bell rang. At least I just liked it. He chucked up everything. He didn't care really how much he was getting paid, what his music was, what gloves he wore. Well, I'd probably.
You're right. You're right. No, you're right about the gloves. You're right about the gloves.
Yeah, he just went for it. He just went for it and threw everything: elbows, knees, bites, punches.
He liked Floyd's gloves so much he bit them.
Well, and that made it into a good fight.
Even the second fight.
Do you think he'll come back?
He made
No,
Floyd look
he's
bad.
retired. He's never come back now.
Yeah.
I mean, you need about a year to get that weight off. I mean, he stays in some kind of like stay in the country somewhere on a farm with all his family and his guns and stuff. I mean,
Things.
I've actually put it on my Twitter page actually. But see that picture of the actual Wade. Was he the Wade or the final press conference? He's just standing there with his hand
Danger
cocked
zone.
like a pistol, pointing it into Cloner's head, and all you see Cloner's fucking face was like kind of all screwed up and stuff. And was saying, "You've been owned, you wee bastard." I think it is as well. Maybe it was the magic shakes of Alex Ariza that kind of pulled him through. Because, I'll give Cloner his due. He's got a bit of a beard on him. I think I read an interview as well as that Chino says that Cloner's probably the strongest fighter he's ever faced, which is, fair comment, I suppose, because he is a thick guy, basically. But, just that time as well when he dropped him the second time. Left hook, right hand. Oh, so it was pure sex, man. Pure sex.
Hey, Ted, go on ahead. I cut you off. Sorry. Dave.
Oh. I forget what I was going to say. Oh, we're talking about the Floyd fights. I thought he did push him close the first fight. I had 7-5 for Floyd. The big Floyd nut hugger, Paulie Malignaggi, actually had it to Floyd by only a point. But the second fight was good as well. I mean, he hurt Floyd. He actually slipped the punch. He wasn't even up for that fight, really. He was there for the payday. It was pretty clear. He did not throw everything at Floyd like he did the first fight. He was just there to see what would happen and get the money, get that check, which he's certainly enjoying now. It looks like he's this fat Argentine redneck sitting by a campfire every time I see a picture of him. But
fair play to him though, man. He's been out on his own he's been out on his own. He's decided when he wants to leave. He said he slugged his guts. He said the fight in Argentina, he said he'd fucking travel the world and he's come to America, got his big chance, split Quitter Ortiz's jaw in half. Then you heard that bitch after the fight says, "Oh, I don't deserve to take this." Well, fuck off then.
he's provided more entertainment for us fans, not just in the biggest fights, but like Josecito Lopez and Soto Carras.
Yeah.
He's provided great entertainment for us.
Good fights, but see the other thing, we've actually missed it, but see the Morales fight, a lot of people were actually scared for Morales going into that. They really felt, I mean, he's up at 140 there, 2, 3, maybe even 4 divisions above his best fighting weight, past his prime, badly injured, badly swollen left eye, right eye, whatever it was, and then, I don't know if I had a draw, maybe Chino by a point, but, Morales, man, he had one decent or one more big performance in him, and he fucking, done well, I suppose, but at the same time, did he fucking fail drugs test in that fight?
Yeah, twice.
3 times maybe.
Well, there's an argument to be made. If there wasn't for the eye damage, he could have possibly won the fight.
Yeah.
I feared for him going in as well. Let me make this final comment, actually, guys. I know what you think about this. I was listening to, what's the podcast Steve Kim does with that other guy?
Gabriel Montoya?
No, not him.
Mario Lopez?
Yeah, him. They were talking about Maidana, and someone said about him going into the Hall of Fame, and I thought Kim made an interesting point. He said about judging Hall of Fame and how many times you would go back and say, oh, I would like to watch this fighter's fight again. Like if you've got a spare minute or whatever, I don't ever really have one, but and you put on YouTube or you hit the videos up and you say, I'll watch Maidana versus so-and-so versus so-and-so. How many fights he had that you would want to put back on again and making that conducive with a Hall of Fame career? Anybody have any comments on that?
Yep, Khan, Morales, Carras, Lopez,
Ortiz, definitely.
Cloner as well. So there you go. There's about 5 fights you could name.
It's interesting, isn't it, though? Because you could have someone like, say, Andre Ward, when he retires, we'll definitely put him in the Hall of Fame, but we wouldn't put Maidana in. But how many Ward fights and how many Maidana fights would you go back and watch in 10, 15 years' time?
Ward against Froch.
And that's it.
That's it.
Do we have to hate on Froch every week?
Yep.
Come on.
Hey, Ward against Dawson was pretty good. That was a great.
I actually quite enjoyed that, to be fair.
Comparatively, though, to a Maidana or someone else at that lesser level.
Yeah, but you need variety, though.
Yeah, I know.
What I was going to say there is, you see what Steve Kim's probably kind of almost saying there is something that we said about Arturo Gatti back in the day. I mean, it's a Hall of Fame. It's not the Hall of Popularity, So rather than go back and watch all your favourite fights because they're popular with you as an individual or by a collective group or whatever, that doesn't mean to me that you should be in the Hall of Fame. I understand like McGuigan got into the Hall of Fame because he transcended during a time. Obviously, shit's going on over in Ireland and stuff. That's it was really, really bad at the time. So obviously he kind of transcended that shit. So
But yeah, by that same definition, it's the Hall of Fame. It's not the Hall of all-time great fighters. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very subjective thing. But I personally would vote to put him in there because I like him,
Yeah.
and he's
I'm
been around for so long at the top.
saying that Kim's right or wrong, Dave. I'm just throwing the question out. That's an interesting topic. Maybe a topic for another day, guys. Right, before we close out, we've managed to squeeze nearly 2 hours out this lemon, so we've done all right. Next week is another quiet week. I didn't even realise it was the 21st of August next week. Shows how bad I'm getting, Andy.
Yeah.
But we have one fight of major note at welterweight. Errol Spence Jr. 20-0 against Leonard Bundu, the veteran, 33-1-2, in the Ford Amphitheatre, Coney Island. Dave, this fight's in America. You're from America. Are you going?
No, I forgot it was happening next week. I'm going to watch, but I also will be probably watching UFC. I don't know if that makes me a casual. I'll still be
Casual.
Casual.
No, but it's Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz again. That'll be fun.
Oh, I'll be watching then just to see Conor get
Casual.
knocked out again.
Anyway, back to Spence and Bundu. Anybody fancy this one?
No, I don't really see it.
Spence by stoppage, maybe.
Well, that's that one thing is I think it makes it. I think he can really make a statement if he could stop Bundu, because remember that's something that Keith Thurman had 12 rounds to do and couldn't do. So if Spence stopped Chris Algieri in dramatic and very rapid fashion, whereas the likes of Provodnikov couldn't stop Algieri, and
Even
Pacquiao couldn't stop Algieri, and then Errol Spence did. Well, this is just one of those things that's going to add to the narrative again, and I think the whole intrigue of the fight is whether he can stop him, because he's a guy who doesn't get stopped.
I struggle with fights sometimes, and what you guys think, Adam, in particular. I struggle with fights whenever the only intrigue lies in whether one guy can stop the other. It's sort of, obviously not on the same level, but it's like those fights you get in small halls when you've got a local guy fighting a Latvian in 4-rounder, and the only thing that is of interest in this fight at all is whether the Latvian will get stopped or not. It's tough sometimes to watch fights like that. Is Bundu just going to come and survive, or is he going to have a go? Adam.
Sorry, go again, mate. I'm distracted by the Olympics. Go on, I'm ready for you.
Who do you think's going to win?
What, Bundu? Oh, Spence will do him. Bundu's too what? Bundu's about 80 now, isn't he?
Bundu must be pushing 40.
41, is he maybe?
We discussed it last week, eh? I mean, Bundu is at best European level. He's a good wee fighter. Like, don't get me wrong, but Spence, he's coming in. Nobody's peaked just now, but he's not far off it. Physically he's getting into the weight now. I did say at the time that if Spence had stopped Algieri, I'd be well impressed, and he did it, quite impressively. So if he does the same here, even though he is a 40-year-old guy, he's done something that Keith Thurman couldn't do, or as you say, Steve, refused to do. So I'm going to go safe option. I'm going to go for points.
Thurman dropped him in the first round. Why did he choose to box that way from that point onwards? Did he hurt his hands? Did he think that he wanted to show another dimension to his game? Did Bundu offer? Well, Bundu didn't offer him anything at all in return. Why did Thurman do that against his opponent?
I think it's his tank. I think he's really struggling at 147. Really struggles with the weight, so he's trying to pace himself through the fight and that. If you know you're struggling, why push for it? You just know yourself, right? Okay, I just got to go and do enough just to win, keep myself on top, basically. Yeah.
If Spence gets past Bundu, as we all expect him to do, where do you think he's going to go next, guys? And where would you like to see him go next?
Vacant IBF title shot, I think.
I was hoping for Brook, but I guess that's out.
Well, actually, is it out? Because I mean,
as he's retiring after this fucking fight against Golovkin. Trust me on this.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say they held the WBC, anyways, held Amir's spot down at 147 and let him go up and fight Canelo. I just didn't know if they were gonna let Brook hang on to that title and then come back down, if we just go up for one fight.
But being real, forget Brook. There's a lot of good fights that can be made, considering that Heyman has most of 147. Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, even while watching him beat up Adrian Broner. That'd be fun.
Yeah, all those guys are going to be very reticent to fight him, though, and they're going to push back hard because, I mean, no
I don't know. Porter will fight anyone.
Well,
I think.
Porter might, but I mean, no one really wants Spence right now. I mean, it's going to be difficult for, I think, because Al Haymon can I mean, he can make these guys a scarce commodity, not give them fights or whatever. But it doesn't seem like he does that. Like I don't know if he's been forcing guys. I mean, he's been. I guess what I'm trying to say is that apparently, depending on who you believe, that Thurman and Porter fight should have been made a long time ago. But the fighters' camps pushed back and didn't want it, and then finally, like Al Haymon made it. But it's like, I mean, Haymon doesn't seem to be like Aaron would be like, you're gonna fight this other fucking guy that'd tell you to fight, and if you don't, I'll put you on the shelf for 2 years, like I did to, Nonita Donaire and Julio Cesar Chavez. It doesn't seem like Haymon really forces guys like that, which it maybe is good for the fighters, but it isn't exactly great for the fans.
I can see Danny Garcia retiring without ever having faced anybody of any note from now to the end of his career.
I agree with that. Path of least resistance for that fucker.
I just don't think he wants to do it. And on that note, does anybody else have anything else they want to add?
Joshua Buatsi, gold medal, baby.
Who?
Joshua Buatsi.
Who the fuck is that?
Well, you're not listening at the beginning, Donald.
Fucking
Everybody
casual.
tune in to Claressa Shields fighting on Wednesday. She fights like a man. She's awesome.
Hey, Dave.
He probably is a fucking man.
Dave, would you?
Yeah?
Yeah, I would. Cause I see that thing on Trans World Sport that she did, man. Oh,
That was the question.
Transgender world sport was that?
I would have been in about that like a tramp, a fish supper, by the way. Honestly.
I think she looks good, but you couldn't have said that at the last Olympics, because when she first won her gold, she was 17.
Dave, there's no Valerie.
That's legal in this
It's
country.
legal in the UK, mate. It's 16 over here.
Oh, you guys
Adam
probably like
Johnson.
our gymnastics team then.
I like Valerie in my food. Remember her?
No.
Who?
Valerie in my
We're all
food.
casuals.
Layla Ali back in the day. Don't worry about it. Right, forget about it. We're closing out whether you lot like it or not. Just a few closing comments. Like I said at the top of the show, don't forget to look out for punches from the past. Yep, you're going to be hearing about that all the time, so sorry about that. Rate and review, subscribe, do all those lovely things. Also, by the way, winter is coming, but the website is coming even faster. Tommy is sitting every night. He's shaking in front of the computer screen. His eyes are bulging. He's drooling. He hasn't been on anything.
That's just
He's
cocaine,
coding.
mate. That's just cocaine.
He's that busy coding this new website and getting it set up in the hosting, so it'll be ready soon. If anybody still uses forums these days, you'll be able to use this one soon.
What will be announced first? The re-release of BoxingAsylum.com or official Ward Kovalev?
I don't know.
50-50 one right there.
It's
Both
looking
of which
good for
highly
Vegas.
impact on Tommy's life.
It's looking good for Vegas.
And also, keep a look out as well, guys. A brand new range of Boxing Asylum merchandise coming soon, so that'll be something for people to be interested in. So if you want socks with Andy's face,
Steve, I actually went into the Salvation Army the day, just no far from a well-known ghetto where I kind of grew up. So I went in there, just dropped off some t-shirts to the local kids and that for their boxing classes and that. They really appreciated them, but they were a bit big for them, so they probably need to wait till they're like 16 before they can actually wear them again.
I want a red hat, like the Trump hat with white font. It says "Suck a fart right out me ass."
Oh, the Cubans got knocked in there. Jesus Christ! I want one of those Marvin Hagler hats. Actually, it says "War," and below I want it to say "War Asylum." That's what I want on mine.
Our hottest selling item, according to preliminary market research, will be toilet paper with Andy's face on it. So you can wipe your ass with it.
forget about "Let's Go, Champ." If you want some of our Asylum knowledge, quotes and famous citations and stuff on your hats and t-shirts, keep an eye out for the Boxing Asylum knowledge. Right, guys. Only leaves me.
If you want to see a head rolling down the street, then it'll be fucking Donny's down the fucking 1001 freeway.
Alright, we're gonna have t-shirts with Andy cutting Donny's head off the way Hay done the one with the black t-shirt.
That'd be quality, aye. I think that could be. Hey, I actually want it done like there's affliction t-shirts. I want it like that, but I want it in red.
Oh, I don't like them.
I think that'd be really good. I think it could be a bestseller. Actually, I mean, aye. We need to get Brandon on the case. He had his own clothing line coming out. Remember, we need to go on to him about this.
You're actually talking like this is going to happen.
It's happening, mate. What the
We're
fuck have you
talking
been?
like someone stopped the broadcast. We're still on air here, right? It only happens for me to thank our panel this evening. I've been Steve Wellings. Thanks.
He's talking piss. He fucking has no fucking clue. You've been missing for fucking 3 weeks. You've missed all the news.
Let me close this bugger out. We'll see you again next week, guys. Adam Smith was on the call. Who else did we have? Dave Lovac, Donny, Andy, Ryan, Paul David, Amir Khan. I've been Steve Wellings. We'll speak to you all next week, guys. Thanks for listening.
Get your Andy Patterson toilet paper today.
Blast motherfuckers.